Today we're going to combine our grass tufts and our homemade flocking to make these do-it-yourself flower tufts that we can also use to make some little flower beds for our medieval city. So I'm going to demonstrate on a couple little tufts here. What we're primarily going to be doing is using some of this Eileen's tacky glue, along with some of our colored flock that we made in a previous episode. Now I'm going to start things off with the purple flocking. This is some light pink or light magenta and some vermilion purple. I'm just going to take a little bit of it and put it into this little tray right here. Now, this little shaker box, I found it at Daiso. It kind of collects some of the flocking up at the top here, which this is a perfect amount for what I'm going to be doing today. Alright, so now that we've got our flocking in a handy, easy to access container, we've got our glue, we need one of our little grass tufts. So I'm going to pull this off of the masking tape, and I'm just going to grab a hold of it by the bottom, and we're going to stick the ends into this little blob of glue. And then I'm going to tap off a whole bunch of it, just so that I kind of have some minimal little droplets of glue at the end of all the bristles. Then I can very gently dip it into the flocking, and this is just going to coat the ends of the bristles and kind of leave some gaps and some spacing to kind of look like natural flower coverage. And then I just kind of press it in to make sure nothing comes loose. And then we can do it again with this yellow and orange mix. And again, it's a pretty quick and simple process. It took me maybe 30 seconds to a minute for each individual grass tuft to get coated like this. The really key part is that you don't want to have too much glue, otherwise too much of the flocking will stick to the end of the tuft, and you don't want that. You want a nice light coverage to kind of look like realistic flowers. And I can finish it off with this nice blue mix, and if you do happen to end up with too much glue or too much flocking, you can kind of pull the bristles apart to separate all of the flock and just kind of pull some bits out, or just kind of tap it loose to get the kind of level of coverage or consistency that you're looking for. Alright, so now that we have our flowers, let's go ahead and make some flower beds. So I'm going to use a couple of these little poker chips that I got from the Dollar Tree. I think you've seen them in a previous episode. And then I'm going to take some foam bricks that I made a while back. These are 5mm by 10mm, and I'm just going to do a pretty simple double stack in a ring around the edge of the poker chip. Now I'm going to clear away the hot glue blobs from the outside and most of it from the inside, but the inside's going to get covered, so we don't really care about that. And I also made an oblong one out of a craft stick. So I mixed up some more texture paste. This is just a whole bunch of Mod Podge mixed with some just generic sand, and this is going to be a really nice bit of filler. It's going to solidify nice and hard, and it's also going to bond with all the bricks, adding some reinforcement to the lower layers. And then I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit of sand on the top of them, just to kind of ensure that we have a nice sandy texture and the texture paste doesn't really turn into just a solid flat surface. I kind of want a little bit of like sand or dirt texture. Alright, so now that all the glue has dried, we're going to seal everything in, and we're going to do that with a 50-50 mix of some Mars Black paint and some Mod Podge. Now this will seal all the bricks in and kind of harden them against any kind of damage from wear and tear and handling, but it will also help to seal all the sand in place and prevent it from breaking loose. Now I like to use the Mars Black because it's more of a matte finish than a gloss finish, and it just kind of helps a little bit. So once that's dried, I grab some Artist Loft Gray, and I'm just going to do a quick, simple little overbrush on the outside of all the bricks. And then once that's done, I'm going to hit the tops and the inside of all the brickwork. Now it doesn't matter at this stage if you get any of the paint on the sand that's supposed to be the dirt on the inside of the flower bed. We're going to paint over that later. Now I'm going to use some neutral gray to do a dry brush over all the bricks, just to pick out a little bit of highlights and give it that nice worn, hewn stone look. Alright, and now we're going to use some raw umber and not a dry brush this time, just a simple application over all of the sand to kind of give it the impression that this is a bed of dirt. And once that dries, I go over it with a kind of medium dry brush of some raw sienna. This will pick out some highlights and kind of give the impression that it's some nice sandy dirt, you know, kind of like the stuff that you'd find outside in the woods. Once that's done, we can use some unbleached titanium, and we'll do a light dry brush over the entire piece, just to pick out a little more of the highlights and give it the impression that it's got a little bit of weathering from being outside. Okay, now that everything's painted, we're going to add some flowers, and we're going to do this in a little bit of a haphazard, kind of unpredictable fashion. I want to have all three different colors put into the flower bed, but we're also going to add a few of the grass tufts that don't have any flowers on them, just to kind of help fill things out. Because even in a flower bed, you're not going to find just flowers. You're going to see some bits of foliage that don't have any flowers on them. So it's going to help fill everything out, and it's also going to look a little bit more natural, especially for something that's supposed to be like a medieval city or a medieval setting. Now, I am applying these kind of randomly, and I think that gives it a more natural appearance. You absolutely could, put a large clump of a single color all together, like someone's been curating the garden to ensure that everything is together, but, it's really up to you. Now, if anything doesn't quite look right, you have a good amount of time before the glue dries to change anything up, orient things. This one right here gave me a little bit of trouble. It wouldn't sit flat, so I ended up having to rearrange it a little bit and rotate it to make it sit flat in the planter bed, just so that it wouldn't come loose. Alright, and that is going to be it for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe for future content, comment down in the comments section, and we will see everyone next episode.